Time loop stories are everywhere in science fiction, but Replay by Ken Grimwood isn't really about the time loop at all. It's about what happens to a person who gets to live their life over and over and over again. And that's exactly what happens in this book. The story follows Jeff Winston. At the start of the book, he's in his 40s and suddenly dies from a heart attack. But instead of staying dead, he wakes up again in his 18-year-old body back in the early 1960s. And the strange thing is that he remembers everything. He remembers his entire life, all the choices he made, all the mistakes, and all the things that are going to happen in the future. So suddenly he has this huge advantage. He knows about big historical events that haven't happened yet. He knows which companies will become successful, and he knows how the world is going to change over the next few decades. And honestly, the first thing he does with that knowledge is exactly what most people would probably do. He uses it to make money. He starts investing in things he knows will become incredibly valuable. And very quickly he becomes extremely wealthy. But the real interesting part of the story is that this isn't just a single second chance at life. Eventually Jeff grows older again and also dies again. And then the exact same thing happens again. He wakes up back in his younger body and once again at the start of his adult life. So now he's reliving his life for the second time, and then eventually for the third time, and the fourth. And so the whole book is built around these different replays of Jeff's life. Now when you hear a premise like this, you might expect a book to focus a lot on the mechanics of the time loop. Trying to figure out why it's happening, or what the rules are, or how Jeff might be able to escape it. But that's actually not the main focus of the story. What really surprised me about Replay is how character focused it is. The book spends much more time exploring how Jeff changes as a person across these different lives. Because at first his approach is pretty straightforward. He basically is using his knowledge of the future to build a comfortable and successful life for himself. But as the replays continue, he starts realizing that simply becoming rich every time isn't actually that satisfying. He's already lived that version of his life, so he starts experimenting with different choices. In one replay he might try to change major events, and in another he might try to live a quieter life. And sometimes he's just trying to figure out what actually makes life meaningful when you already know how things are going to end. And I think that's really where the book becomes interesting. Because it starts asking some pretty big questions. If you could live your life again, what would you actually change? Would you try to fix your mistakes? Or would you try to become as successful as possible? Or would you focus more on relationships and the people around you? Jeff goes through a lot of different phases in the book, and that's part of what makes the story feel so human. He doesn't immediately figure everything out. Instead, he slowly learns from these different versions of his life. But again, the book never turns into a big mystery that needs to be solved. The focus stays much more on the characters and their experience. And I actually like that a lot. Sometimes science fiction spends so much time explaining the mechanics of an idea that it forgets about the people inside the story. and replay goes in the opposite direction. The concept is there, but the story is really about how that concept affects someone's life. Another thing I liked about the book is how reflective the tone is. This isn't a fast-paced or action-heavy sci-fi story. It's much quieter than that. It's more about looking back on life and thinking about the choices we make. Jeff has the opportunity to see the consequences of his decisions play out multiple times, and that slowly changes the way he approaches things. And because of that, the book often feels a bit philosophical. It's really about second chances, about regret, and about the idea that even if you had unlimited opportunities to start over, life might still be complicated. You can't fix everything, and some things are simply out of your control. And I thought the book handled those ideas in a really interesting way. And I also appreciated that the story doesn't try to over-explain the science behind the replays. I never really, we never really get a detailed explanation for why it is happening. And honestly, I think that was the right choice. Because the mystery isn't really the point. It's seeing how Jeff changes across these different lives. And by the time we reach the ending, the book brings those ideas together in a way that I found pretty satisfying. The ending actually surprised me a little bit, but in a good way. It wraps things up without trying to answer every single question. And instead it focuses on the emotional side of the story. So in the end, Replay by Ken Grimwood isn't really a book about time travel. It's a book about second chances and about what actually matters if you get the chance to live your life again. And that's what made Replay such a surprisingly thoughtful read for me. And I think this book is enjoyable for a lot of readers, even when you're not really a science fiction reader at all. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Replay. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again.